Welcome back to our Choice YouTube channel. In today's class, we're going to learn how to make this beautiful keyhole neckline blouse with pleated flare collar. Okay, it has a keyhole on the neckline as you have seen, and it has this pleated beautiful collar draped around the neckline. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. This is something you would like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start with my basic bodies first. I'm going to draft the basic bodies. I'm working with this organza fabric. I'm going to be drafting it using this paper so that we can see it well. So I'm going to start from my shoulder. My shoulder is 7 inches, so I'm marking 7 inches here, and then the neck width I'm working with is 3 inches for both back and front, and then the neck depth for the back is 1 inch, and then for the front is 3 inches. And here I'm going to come down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. So I'm just going to connect my shoulder slope to my neck point, and then using the curved side of my ruler, I'm going to connect the back neckline and then the front neckline. So for my armhole, I'm working with 8.5 inches. So from the starting point there, I'm marking the 8.5 inches, and on that point I'm going to take my bust measurement. My bust is 40, divided by 4 is 10, so plus 1 inch seam allowance. And then using my curved ruler, I'm just going to make this into a straight line first so that we can see it. And then using my curved ruler, I'm going to draw my armhole curve. So we already know how to do all of this. So the next thing now is to measure the length of this blouse. So it depends on how you want yours to be. I want mine to be around 20 to 21 inches long, so I'll leave it like this. So now you can actually put a dart on this if you want it fitted, and if you want it free, you can just leave it like this, anyhow you want it to be. Okay, so now the waistline I'm working with, I'm just going to shape the waistline a bit. The waistline is 15 inches, so here I'm going to mark the 15 inches, and on that point my waist is 32, divided by 4 is 8, so 8 is here. If you are adding that, you just add your 1 inch seam allowance for that. I'm not adding that to mine, so I'm just going to have half an inch for ease, and then I'm going to add 1 inch for my seam allowance, and then I'm going to connect like this. Okay, so here on the, you can measure your, this is not getting to the hip line, it's just 20 inches, so you can measure around that place this is going to end, or you can just use your hip measurement tentatively. So I'm just going to leave it with my bust measurement of 10 inch, and then I'm going to add 1 inch seam allowance to that, and then I'm going to connect that measurement together. So basically our basic bodice is done. So the front has like a keyhole neckline, so I'm going to measure that. Remember, we already gone down by 3 inches for our neck depth. So for my total neck depth, I want it to be around 6 to 7 inches, so I can leave it at 6.5 inches. So that's like adding extra 3.5 inches to the 3 inches that I've already gone down with. So with the curved side of my ruler again, I'm just going to place it like this to create that keyhole that will have there. Okay, so you can decide any depth that you want for the midpoint. So to do this, you can just get the midpoint of this, and then on that midpoint you can come out by 1 inch, half an inch, 0.75, depending on how deep you want that place to be, and then you use your ruler to connect everything together. So this is what it looks like now. So I'll just cut this out. So I've cut out my side. Now I'm going to cut the back neckline first, and then I'll cut the shoulder slope. So this is just a half scale body, so the lower part is for the back, and then the upper part is for the front. So I'm just going to slash it so that I can separate the front and back. Now that I've separated it, this is my back, so I'm going to write back, and then I'm going to be cutting this on fold because this does not have a zipper. So make sure you place this on fold when you're cutting your back. And for the front, you can now cut out my neckline for the front as well. So you cut out your keyhole part first, and then I'm going to cut out the 3 inches neck width that I created earlier. So now this is the front, and you cut this on fold as well. So now we're going to go ahead and cut it on our organza fabric. Okay, so I have gone ahead to cut it on my fabric. You can see this is the back, and it is cut on fold just like I explained. So I added my allowance for hemming on the lower part, and this is the front as well. You can see our keyhole and the neckline. So for this, all you just need to do now is to sew the shoulder together for the front and back, and then you join the sides. Okay, basically that's what we're going to do, and then I'm going to move straight to the collar. So for the collar, again, I'm going to be drafting on my pattern. So I'm just putting it on fold. You can also draft on the half scale, so that when you're folding on your fabric, you just cut on fold. But I'm putting mine on fold so that I can explain this very well. After placing it on fold, the length that I want for the back collar is around 6 inches. So from the upper part here, I'm measuring that 6 inches, and then I'll make that into a straight line. Okay, so after marking it, this becomes my shoulder points. Now this is the side for the back, and this long part is the side for the front. So here, what I'm going to mark now is my neck width. Okay, the same neck width that I used for the main bodice, which is 3 inches. So from these folded points now, I'm going to mark the 3 inches. So now I'm marking the 3 inches at this point, and then I'm going to mark my neck depth for the back 1 inch, and then for the front, remember I marked 3 inches, and then from there I added another 3.5 inches. You can also just bring in your back to do all of these markings. Okay, so you can bring in your pattern, and then you just use that to trace it out. So please, when you're cutting on your fabric, your shoulder, please add your seam allowance to it, so that you have exact same thing by the time you finish sewing. Remember, we use 3 inches for this. I think I forgot to add seam allowance on my shoulder, so I'll just reduce the measurement that I used for the depth, so that it can be accurate. Okay, so here, just like I did for the front as well, I'm going to note the main point, and then on that main point I'm going to mark around 3/4 of an inch, and then I'm going to connect my neck depth. So if you want it really accurate, like I said, you can just bring in your pattern, and then you place it here, so that you can use that to create all of this. So here's my pattern, and I'm placing it on it now. So I think what I have here is okay. So now the next thing now is to start creating our collar. So like I said, for the back, I want it to be around 6 inches or thereabouts, although I've even taken 5 inches from it already. So now on the shoulder, I'm going to measure the width that I want for the collar on the shoulder as well. So I'm marking around 5 inches or 5.5 inches. I think 5 inches is okay. You can just work with whatever it is that you want. Okay, so now what I'm going to do now is to connect from my center back, this is the center back, the fold point, all the way to the length of my collar on the side. Okay, after connecting for the side, I'm going to mark the length that I want for the collar at the front as well. So it can be as long as you want. It's actually really long, so I think I'm just going to exhaust what I have on this paper. So what you're going to do now is to connect from that tip here, from your shoulder all the way to the tip at the front. You can use the curve for this as well, but I'm using my free hand. So you just draw the shape anyhow you want it to be. So after drawing this shape now, I'm going to go ahead and cut out what I have using my paper scissors. So now we cut the curved part first, and after that I'm going to cut out the neckline as well, and then I'll slash the front open, and then we'll see what it looks like. So that's the first part, and now I'm cutting the keyhole and then the front and back neckline. Okay, so this is what this looks like, and then at the center front here I'm going to slash it open. So you can actually work with this collar like this. That's what you're going to use to turn your neckline. Remember, the collar is cut, the inner part of the collar is cut exact same way we cut out our neckline, so it's going to fit. That's why you will need to turn your neckline, which is why we're not fixing lining or bias to this. So this is what it looks like on fold. And like I said, you can actually work with it like this, but if you look at the thumbnail, you will see that it has like pleats. So we are going to use slash and spread method to introduce volume to this. So there are several ways you can actually cut this collar, but this is one of the easiest way, and this is going to save a lot of fabric because I don't have a lot of fabric to work with. You can also cut it in form of a flare. So if you want a tutorial on that as well, kindly let me know in the comment section. So now to do a slash and spread for this, it depends on how you want to introduce your volume. You can introduce the volume in such a way that you are not going to be pleating it on the neck, which means your neckline. I want to use this small miniature size to explain the two types of slash and spread you can do. So like I said, if you don't want any pleats around your neckline, it means you just introduce your slash lines, okay? Anywhere you want it to be, you introduce the slash lines. Then after introducing your slash lines, as many as you want, you cut from the outer part like this, and then you stop at the tip of your neckline. So you cut from the outer part and then stop at the tip of your neckline. So after cutting like that, you are going to go ahead and spread. But with this, it's going to consume a lot of fabric, okay? It's going to consume a lot of fabric because you cannot actually break it down on this part, and then it may even be difficult for you to spread as much as you want, which is why I'm going to be using this second method. So for this second method, I'm going to be pleating both on the neckline, just like we have it on the thumbnail. I'll be pleating on the neckline, which will automatically transfer to the lower side of the bodice. So now after introducing my slash lines, I think I want about 4 slash lines here, and for this one you can slash it into 2 for it to be easier for you. You just note that for the center back, it will be cut on fold. So after introducing my slash lines, now I'm going to cut completely through it, okay? You just need to label it so that you don't get confused. So I'm labeling it 1, 2, 3 and 4, okay? So after labeling it, now I know the labeling is going to guide me. So I'm going to cut it completely. So after cutting completely, I'm going to be placing this part on fold, and then now I'm going to be placing this like this to introduce the amount, whatever amount of volume that I want, and then I'm going to connect them together, which is the method I'm going to be using. So now I'm going to bring in my original pattern, which is this. I'm going to reduce it so that I'll have a smaller paper to work with, and I'm doing that by just slashing it into 2. So now I have a half scale collar, okay? So now after slashing it into 2, I'm going to go ahead and place my lines where I want my pleats to be. So I want one very close to the neckline here, so I'm just going to mark it. I want another one here, so you can just mark 1.5 or 2 inches interval, and then I'm going to be placing one at the back. So after placing it like that, I'm going to label it 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. You can introduce as much volume as you want. So after doing that, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut it off completely, and I'll spread it on my fabric directly. And then on this center back, you note that it has to be cut on fold. Remember, we have already slashed it into 2. Okay, so you can see I am placing it. I put my fabric on fold, and then I pin the fold point to it. So I have slashed the first one. Now I will introduce as much volume as I want, and then make sure that the necklines are aligned. After introducing the volume that you want, I'm going to go ahead and pin that down as well, and then I will go and slash the third one. So now I'm going to just raise it up now, and then slash the next one, and then I'm going to introduce another volume, and then note my neckline as well. So you can see that it is very simple to do. So after introducing that volume, I'm going to pin it as well, and then I'll continue like that. Okay, so I have arranged them all now, and you can see what it looks like. So the next thing is just to connect all of these spaces together. Then after connecting it, I'm going to come in with my scissors. If you need to add seam allowance, you can add it, but I'm just going to go ahead now and then cut it directly. Okay, so after cutting the outer part, you cut the inner part as well. My pin is not enough, so please, if you have enough pin, just pin everything down so that they can lay well for you. So now on the inner part as well, I'm adding like quarter of an inch allowance, and then I'm just cutting around the neckline. Okay, so after cutting it, I'm going to cut the keyhole as well, and then I'm going to slash the front open. So now you're going to notch that place where you are going to pleat together, so that you will not get confused. So now all of these spaces in between, you can just place notches there. So now you can see I have notched mine. Okay, so I have notched it so that I will know how to pleat it. So this is how you're simply going to pleat it. You're just going to make sure that all of this, just like taking your original shape back to its your collar back to its actual original shape. So you can see my first pleat, then you take your next one as well, and then you pleat it. So this is how you're going to pleat it. So now I'm going to remove my pins and pattern, and then you're going to go ahead and serge this outer part, or you can just turn it out. Just make sure you make it neat, because this is organza. You can also burn it if you can. What we want to achieve is something really neat so that it doesn't frill. And this is the center back, so which is why I said you have to put it on fold. So you can see that the center back is on fold and everything is together. Okay, so now after placing our pleat, so you can see now that we have extra fullness around that area. Okay, so you spread it as much as you want. Okay, so now you can see that I have pleated the neck, the cape, and then this is the fullness. You can see the extra fullness that I have there, so you can make it as full as you want. This fullness is okay for me for the purpose of this tutorial, so I'm leaving it as this. So now you go ahead and clean up all the rough edges just like I explained, and then I'm going to bring in my main bodice. So the main bodice, I've already joined it together on the shoulder. I just left the side so that I can easily turn the neckline. So this is the right side, and this is what it looks like. So now to close this upper part up, I'm going to be using this bias to create the loop, which is going to serve as the buttonhole for the button that I'm working with. So you should get a cord. There's a cord you can use to do that. So I just folded my bias and then sew it down. So I'm going to interlock, and the space that you need here depends on the size of your button. So now you're going to place it like this and then sew it on the outer part, okay, on the inner part, because remember this is not going to be fixed like the lining. We are going to be sewing this in such a way that it's going to be sewn on the wrong side, because remember this cape is going to be flipped outwards to the right side. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. By the time I sew it, we'll understand it better. Instead of like we normally do for our lining, remember we used to place it right side facing right side and the lining goes inwards. But in the case of this cape, the cape is going to be coming outwards. So now you can see I'm placing it. We're going to sew it like this, and then we're going to flip it for it to just rest on top of the main body. So the main thing is to make sure that this loop is sandwiched in between the cape and the main body. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so as we can see, I've gone ahead to sew it around now. So now I'm just going to bring in my scissors to reduce the seam allowance that I have there. But cut very carefully and don't cut too close, because this is an organza fabric. So all these curved part, I'm going to make sure to reduce it. You can also weave the rough edges off, and then you can see our loop is in between the main fabric and the cape. Okay, it has to be like that for you to be able to conceal it neatly. So now after cutting all of this, after reducing these rough edges, what I'm going to do now is to flip it over so that we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so now you can see this is the right side of my fabric, and then the collar is placed directly on the fabric. So if you are using, I can place it anyhow. I can place the collar anyhow because I'm using an organza fabric which doesn't really have a wrong and right side. But if you are using a fabric that has wrong and right side, please be mindful of how you place your collar. So now I'm just going to bring this out now, and this is what it looks like. So I want to notch this part a bit. Okay, so after bringing it out, this is what you will have, and then you go ahead and iron it down. So I'm just going to top stitch mine for now. So you bring out the inner corner, that keyhole part that we created. We're going to make sure to bring everything out. So this is what it's going to look like. So you really need to iron this like I said, but I'm just going to go ahead now and top stitch on mine so that I can relax Then after top stitching it, I can now sew my sides together. So I have gone ahead to top stitch on it, and also I have sewn the side. So now I'm going to flip it to the right side so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so make sure that you clean up the neckline completely, so you can see my neckline. Okay, even the center front, you can see how clean it is. So just make sure you weave all of the edges of your organza as well for your cape. So you clean the neckline as much as possible, and this is what it looks like now. This is the collar, and this is my neckline. So here you fix a button here so that I can just close the button. I can look at what your keyhole looks like. So this is the collar on the side, this is it on the back, and this is it on the other side, and this is the long ones we have on the front as well. So you can fix any sleeve of your choice. I'll just take this to the mannequin now so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the blouse looks like on the mannequin. You can see the neckline is neat, so you just need to fix your button here. I just held mine with pins, and this is the neckline on this side as well. So this is our pleats. So you make sure that all of these edges is neat, and then you add fullness depending on what you want. So this is what it looks like. So I forgot to mention that the pleats are depending on how you want your pleats to go, the direction you want it to go, that is how you're going to draw your slash line. If you draw your slash line straight, your pleat is going to be formed straight, and if you want it in a diagonal form, you make sure that you cross your hand just how you want your pleats to look like by the time you are done. So this is what it looks like, and this is what it looks like on the lower part. So it can be as long as you want, but I just left mine around the waistline here. So you can also iron it down for it to relax, but I like this bouncy puffy look that I have. That's why I decided to leave mine like this, and this is what it looks like on the back. You just need to go ahead and fix a sleeve of your choice, and your blouse is ready. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment, and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.